So the AL West is shaping up to be a two-team race with the Rangers in first and the Astros in second, and Houston is now looking to gain a leg up on those Texas Rangers via acquiring some starting pitching at the deadline. Now, according to Jon Heyman, the Astros' dream acquisition could be Dylan Cease of the White Sox. Now, from an Astros perspective, this trade makes total sense. The rotation issues have become more of a glare as Christian Javier has an ERA of 12.06 since June 21st, and Hunter Brown, who was fantastic in the beginning of the season, holds a 7.23 ERA since June the 19th. Not to mention Lance McCullers, Jose Urquidy, and Luis Garcia have all spent significant time on the injured list this season. Now, the only problem with this trade is that it might not be entirely realistic. This is because Dylan Cease is one of the very few guys the White Sox have under team control until 2025, and many have noted that despite the White Sox pretty much being out of the playoff race this season, that doesn't mean that they still won't keep and still want Dylan Cease. In fact, they view Dylan Cease as a piece they can build around for 2024 and beyond. So again, it's kind of up to the White Sox. It's in the White Sox fate of what they want to do at the deadline. Do they want to keep Dylan Cease? Do they want to trade him? Do they think that they have enough to go for it once again in 2024? Or do they go into kind of a premature rebuild? Now, if the Astros do actually acquire Dylan Cease from the White Sox, I think they should also be in the market for another Chicago starting pitcher, and that is the Cubs' Marcus Stroman. Stroman is one of the hottest pitchers out there right now, and probably one of the most likely starters to get dealt this deadline. Of course, Stroman has been linked to other teams, such as the Orioles, Blue Jays, and the Tampa Bay Rays, but I think he should be a Houston Astro at the end of the day, because once again, I know the Astros have a lot of starting pitching right now, and again, they've been underperforming a little bit, they've been hurt, and you can argue, hey, you have way too much starting pitching, but the fact is that's not possible. You can't have too much starting pitching come postseason time, right? I mean, anything can happen in the postseason. Guys could get hurt in round one, and you might need that extra arm to get you past round one and into the ALDS and the CS and potentially the World Series. So I think if they nab Dylan Cease and Marcus Stroman, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And I think if they do that come the beginning of August, they might actually pull ahead of the Rangers and win the tough AL West. Now, according to John Paul Morosi, he thinks that the team with the best chance to nab Shohei Ohtani at the deadline is, get this, the Baltimore Orioles. Now you're probably thinking, where did this come from? How does this make sense? How does Shohei Ohtani make sense in an Oriole uniform? That was my initial reaction as well, but when JP explained his reasoning behind this fit, it honestly makes a lot of sense. Take a listen.
We're still not entirely sure that he's going anywhere, but as we reported last week, the Angels are listening. Now, when you talk about where he might go as a rental, the Orioles really do have a lot of appeal as a potential trade partner for the Angels, because the Orioles have, and they're one of a handful of teams you could say this about, the kind of young talent, position player talent, even some pitching as well, that could entice the Angels to at least consider moving the great Shohei Ohtani. Again, it's not entirely clear that he's going to be moving anywhere, but look at these names on your screen, especially among the position players. This is the kind of trade partner who could really help the Angels remain a competitive team if they make the Shohei Ohtani trade. Now, I'll be very clear about this. The only way that it really makes sense for the Orioles to get Ohtani is if he's able to pitch often and well.
So you guys just heard what JP had to say on a potential Shohei Ohtani to the Orioles trade scenario. It's honestly a really good argument. I really have no gripes with what he said in that video. I think the Orioles right now have a better chance to nab Ohtani than the Yankees, despite many in the industry still believing somehow the last place New York Yankees have one of the better chances to get Shohei Ohtani come this deadline. I think that's just the media trying to stir stuff up and trying to keep New York relevant in, the baseball world. Total stupidity from people to say post All-Star break, are only 2 weeks away from the deadline, that the last place, the sole last place New York Yankees, have a better chance of nabbing Shohei Ohtani than the Orioles, who are in first place. That's ridiculous. Now, who are my top 3 teams to nab Ohtani at this deadline? Well, I think number 1 is the Dodgers, okay? And I think number 2 is the Braves. The Braves are a team that is the best team in baseball. They're hot as hell. People respect them, but they haven't been talking about them as a really potential World Series favorite, and they haven't been in the Shohei Ohtani trade rumors all season long. And I think they deserve to be in that conversation for Shohei Ohtani. I think that could work out. I think that'd be kind of crazy to see. So I think the Braves are number 2. And number 3, like I said, is the Orioles. You can throw in the Texas Rangers as well. That's who I think is the best shot to nab Ohtani this trade deadline. Now let's talk about Juan Soto, who in my opinion is probably the most interesting trade piece this deadline. Of course, Soto is probably going to be the second most sought after power bat this deadline, and once he hits free agency in 2024. Now, he isn't having a fantastic year at the plate. It's not a career year by any means. Many could argue a subpar year, but what makes him very sexy to contending teams here this deadline is his age, team control, and the potential for him to go off at any moment. So the one team that has been rumored the most in these Juan Soto sweepstakes is the Phillies, who at this time have a stacked outfield, but once again, the outfield bats aren't really producing like they hoped, okay? So I think Juan Soto to Philly would help both sides in Soto and the Phillies. I think, first, a change of scenery for Juan Soto would bode well for him, give him a jolt of energy once he's inserted with a postseason hopeful team, a lot more energy, a lot more expectations. Also, I think being reunited with former Nats hitting coach Kevin Long could help him rediscover his power, and consistency is a key word at the plate. The second team I see in the running for Juan Soto is the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, look, their insane start to the season has helped them to get where they are right now, right? They're 2 games up on the Baltimore Orioles. They have not relinquished that lead since the beginning of the season practically. But I think the absence of a true power and run-producing bat could be what loses them that AL East lead and divisional crown. So they have to make this move sooner rather than later. Also, I think the fact that they have a top 5 farm system in baseball allows them to pitch a very intriguing offer to the Padres that will entice the Padres to pull the trigger on trading Juan Soto. I mean, at some point, if you're Tampa Bay, you got to make a move that shows you're serious about winning a championship, okay? I mean, it's cute and all being analytical and conservative with your prospects and being a prospect hugger and selling them, you know, once they hit their peak value in the major leagues and all that. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be, you know, the Oakland Athletics 2.0. You don't want to have this window of time that you have as an organization and come out of it with 0 championships. You need to win 1. You got to make an aggressive move. And if that means giving up a couple of top prospects, so be it. You got to go for it if you want to stay in Tampa number 1, and if you want to keep the fans happy number 2. Team number 3 would be the San Francisco Giants, and you're like, whoa, wait, what? This is even more crazy. Yeah, it could be crazy, but as I'm recording this video right now, the Giants are only 2 games back in the NL West. As you know, they were really aggressive in trying to go get another power bat this offseason in Aaron Judge. That did not work out, but now that they're in contention and they're still in need for that power bat, I think Juan Soto would be a nice fit. I think Juan Soto to the Giants would be a sneaky good move for that organization. I think it would surprise everybody in the baseball industry. And you know what? The only downside of this is that maybe the Padres wouldn't want to trade Juan Soto to the Giants. But I think the Padres market to trade Juan Soto has been very, very limited. So now you're left with the NL West. And the NL West is your division, unfortunately, but you have the top 2 teams in that league, and it's the Dodgers and it's the Giants. And at some point, you're going to have to make the decision is if he's not going to Tampa Bay, where's he going to go? And I think it's going to be the Dodgers, realistically, but I also think it could be the Giants, even more so. If the Dodgers get Shohei Ohtani, I think Juan Soto is a Giant. So that's all I got. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later.